All right, we'll give this a shot. All right, I'm just gonna put hit record on in the back. Next time I'll have two screens.
Yeah, we'll learn.
Because I'm
Ready?
yeah.
Good evening, everybody. We're going to get started. My name is Dia, and I'm part of Saugerties Battery Storage. And I know we could probably hear each other without the mic, but we're going to use it to help with the recording and to make sure everyone can hear. Thank you so much for coming. Welcome. We really appreciate your concern. We really appreciate your participation and also your valuable time. I'm going to start out by telling you the outline of the agenda. I'll be doing a little bit of framing of how this got started and a little bit on home rule and the importance of it. And then Liz this is Liz. I'll introduce her properly later. She's doing an overview of the current application for the best of by KCE. And then we have a speaker who's an expert on renewable energy doing a talk on technology. And we have Eve doing a talk on safety, and he'll get properly introduced later too. Then we have an open discussion where everyone can say what they'd like to say, and a little bit of regroup so that we can look at next steps. The one thing I'd like to ask your cooperation on is that the only thing we're talking about here is battery storage. That's the only topic. We'll be focusing on that. Okay, so we have evidence that the first correspondence with KCE and the town was in March of 2025. That's when all of this got started in some form. And then not a word was uttered publicly. Suddenly in February, there were 3 meetings, which I call the 1, 2, 3 punch. One was a, if you will, infomercial by the company about their product. 2, in February again, was a town board meeting with presentation by 3 people who are avid proponents, to say the least, of this facility. And then February 17th, suddenly the planning board is taking up the application. So what I'm trying to say is not a lot of time for people to get to know what's going on, people to ask questions, people to learn. So my question is, what's the rush? More on that coming. The home rule issue is very important because I don't know how you feel, but I feel that we should have local control over certain decisions. And what kind of facilities get put in the middle of our town and village should be one of them. Especially if they have dangers attached to them. New York has very strong home rule law. And there are bills in the Senate and Assembly There are papers in the back, so you can get more information if you like. It basically enables the state to bypass completely any local permitting or approval of battery storage facilities. And that is the direction that a lot of policy is going. And I feel not only is it not good around battery storage, but it's a dangerous precedent for our state to be able to make decisions and force them upon us. And yeah, so it means that local planning board decisions that are getting made now may be the last meaningful opportunity for municipal control. So that's one reason we would encourage you all to participate. As I said, there are 2 news articles on home rule in the back you can take. There's a list of officials you can contact about battery storage and also home rule. I'll finish by saying I have this funny idea that elected officials are supposed to represent us. And I have asked the town board to oppose the eroding of home rule. Did not get any response, but as our representatives, I feel that's one thing they should be doing. Last, I'll say a quote that Governor Hochul made. The state has ideas that's about energy, and localities are getting in the way. That's a direct quote. Any of this that you want more information on, please let us know. We have more information. We can talk to you later too. Okay, so it's all done. Liz is a very important member of Stop Saugerties Battery Storage. She's a program manager and works on the World Trade Center Healthcare Program and has over 20 years as a resident of beautiful Saugerties. So far, it's beautiful.
Thank you.
Sorry about that.
Thank you, Dia. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Elizabeth Reese. As Claudia mentioned, I'm a 20+ years resident of Saugerties. Before that, I was down in the city of Brooklyn for like 15 years, and I moved up here. I worked in IT project management and program management for over 30 years. While I was down in the city, I sold a new 911 system to NYPD. So I have experience in working with the police and emergency dispatch. And obviously now I support the World Trade Center Healthcare Program, which provides health coverage to first responders, their family, and police who are impacted from the World Trade Center, which is a privilege to serve in that program. And thank you for letting me participate in this tonight under these very unfortunate circumstances. So please bear with us. We've got quite a lot of information. We'll try to keep it fairly light. Okay, so we're going to go through the who, what, where, and why, and the so what, and what we're doing, how we're challenging it, what comes next, and what other communities are doing. So who? As you know, KCE, New York 34 LLC is the company that's proposing the facility here in Saugerties. This is a limited purpose LLC that's in order to limit liability upstream to Key Capture Energy, on up to SKENS, and on up to the SK Group, which is a South Korean conglomerate, a massive conglomerate. They're LLC, so they can declare bankruptcy without impacting their parent companies, can walk away from legal obligations if sold, transferred, abandoned, or bankrupt. A decommissioning, there will be a decommissioning bond, which has been discussed, but in the application packet, there is nothing about how obsolescence or useful life or the decreasing efficiency of these batteries are handled. There is something that states they may leave some structures in place once they're gone. And there is nothing about recycling or disposal location for the lithium batteries. So from an environmental perspective and from an ownership perspective, there are concerns, including the supply chain. What is being proposed? A large-scale industrial facility of 100 megawatts, which would make it one of the biggest in the state, would also make Saugerties an early adopter at this scale. 136 battery containers, not 10 that was in the literature that was provided to people at the Key Capture Science Fair. The size will cover about 10 football fields of these containers. The battery units are lithium iron phosphate. Even though they're improved on previous technology, it's still a danger that's being brought into the middle of our community. The type and the source of these batteries is unspecified. The application talks about Tesla megapacks. A subsequent communication talks about a different type of battery. All of this will actually affect the chemistry of the batteries and the layout and the footprint. It includes transformers, which are noisy. It includes cooling systems that are noisy. It includes access roads, and it also includes the utility internet interconnection with Central Hudson. The location is behind CVS Plaza near McDonald's, if anybody is not quite clear. The nearest homes in the village boundary are all within 500 feet. It will be continuous operations with local impact and potential significant impacts. The key questions that we have, and obviously people are all coming to this with different opinions, but there are some basic questions that as a community, we should all be able to ask and have answers to. Number one, is this the right location? Is this the right technology? Is it safe? Does the zoning need updating? And is there going to be a full environmental review? Battery storage does not produce energy. They store electricity generated elsewhere and return less than they take in, approximately 80%, due to inherent efficiency losses. They are net consumers of energy, not generators. What else is being proposed? On the adjacent parcel that was actually part of the original Key Capture negotiations with the town back in March, there is another lot that was tied to Key Capture, which now has a big solar farm going in, approximately 45 acres with around 25 acres of disturbance. And this has been given a CEQA classification type 1. And for those who aren't familiar with the whole concept of CEQA, that's about triggering environmental reviews. So the classification is very important because that will determine the process as it goes through planning. It will determine future potential litigation. The BESS project, on the other hand, they have 60 acres of leased property. Although the initial build only specifies 10 to 11 acres, they have the capacity to expand. So everybody should keep that on their minds. And yet the secret classification is currently unlisted, which would mean lesser reviews. The combined scale of these two projects is about 100 acres. The companies have been asked to coordinate. Originally, both parcels were part of the same zoning determination. The shared infrastructure, including the new access road, and there's overlapping reviews on timing. So what's happening by separating these out, is what's called segmentation, which actually exposes the town to lawsuits. By doing that, it is illegal. Key issues: cumulative impact not evaluated, which is illegal segmentation, combined deforestation and environmental impacts, combined noise, combined impact on the stormwater pollution. The incorrect CEQA classification, that should be given the type 1 classification and not the unclassified, which would have lesser reviews. The solar has been given type 1 and it will get higher reviews even though it's not as dangerous. Let me just try this, changing this mic again. Sorry. Where is it going to be? At 7 Thompson's Road, the town of Saugerties, behind CVS Plaza near McDonald's. I put like a hand-fisted overlay on. Here you can see the two parcels that both applicants have access to. The solar farm of 45 acres, the battery folks have 60 acres. Here's the shared access road, and here you can probably see some of our key landmarks, not least there's the Saugerties High School, there's a Starbucks, there's Country Meadows Apartments, a high density population area very close to the battery facility. And the next question is why? And I apologize, this is a little bit of a complicated screen. But if we start at the federal level, massive financial incentives, artificial economics resulted in rapid rollouts. In 2018, batteries were allowed to buy low, sell high model, and then proceeding to 2022, which allowed batteries attached to the grid without generating any electricity. Developers racing to lock in tax credits, secure interconnection rights, and establish vested rights. Vested rights are when a project gets so far along that the town cannot stop it without incurring a lawsuit potentially. So by inching it through the planning process, it's inching towards having this vested right status. And more about that shortly. The incentives, so what happens if the incentive changes and the long-term viability in terms of the financial benefits to these companies change? What happens then? What happens when they walk away from it? The state of New York in 2019 mandated 70% renewable energy by 2030, 100% by 2040, with 6 gigawatts of storage as a target. In February of this year, there was a New York State bill in committee, and this will interest people who do live close to it. It's in committee right now where they want to change the setbacks to be up to at least 1,000 feet as opposed to the current 500 feet. So this would push the footprint further away from our residences in the town and the village, which I think is important to support this bill. And that includes development of model municipal best siting laws and increased focus on fire safety and public protection. The fact that this bill is out there in committee with these as goals shows that these goals have not been sufficiently addressed in the current legislation as it stands on the books or in our local zoning laws. In March of 2026, which is just this month, there was a leaked NYSERDA memo to say that these policies will add approximately $4,000 annually to consumers' bills, especially for those of us using gas or oil still. So they're trying to make it so burdensome to push everybody into electric, and it's going to cost us in our pocket. And as you know, we're already paying thousands more right now. Now, recently, Hochul is saying that she's now backing off. The policy shift is pushing timelines back by 10 years. I know a lot of people are upset about that, but I think personally, a lot of us are grateful to have some breathing room so that this concept can be approached logically in a way that the community can be involved with and in a rational manner as opposed to a new modern gold rush. In Ulster County, there was in November of last year a resolution that was unfortunately defeated along party lines, expressing concern about BESS in Ulster County and supported a moratorium until regulations and safety and environmental concerns were addressed. The Town of Saugerties project, December, the application formally was submitted. February 17th, we had the planning board pre-hearing, which was the first time at the planning board, and the enlisted secret classification happened pretty much straight away. In February 28th, the planning board was appointed the lead agency. In March 17th, the planning board reviews continued with the EAF Part 2, which is what they're working on right now. And in April 21st will be the next planning board meeting. So it's still under review. I do want to also highlight this. A March 20th article, why best insurers are sweating transformers and contractor errors over battery fires. Now that there's starting to be more momentum towards these battery facilities, it's starting to impact the insurance agency who is starting to take a look at it. For underwriters, this is a quote from the article, for underwriters ensuring gigawatt scale battery energy storage systems, thermal runaway is no longer the only bogeyman. It's the velocity of product development, inexperienced integration, and vulnerabilities in the balance of plant that are keeping the insurance industry on its toes. So this is becoming a full circle situation. Everybody's waking up and it needs to be addressed. So what? Well, my big personal thing is about process. We all come to this with different perspectives. My big thing is about process. I truly believe that if, as a community, this had been approached differently, we may not be sitting in this room tonight. We may be having very different conversations. But to have something like this pushed on us, rushed through, and to have our concerns just discounted, it's beyond disrespectful to the community. It's actually illegal and dangerous. I live on Elm Street. I'm very concerned about the noise factor. And there are costs to it. There's hidden costs to communities and to consumers, as we're starting to see. You're looking at your electricity bill, we're going to see that start to go up. There's massive financial incentives and artificial economics for companies who make about $1 million daily they'll make on this plant up here. They're going to kick our way maybe $100,000 a year or something. Okay, so we're not getting anything special out of this. Maybe some posters for the Boys and Girls Club. I mean, seriously, maybe a class. The incentive to the communities are minimal. We're going to be talking about alternate technologies. After myself, we have somebody who is going to be talking from remotely, hopefully, and then we're going to have Eves talking about the danger. We also have concerns about the environment. There's lots of environmentalists in Saugerties. I feel almost like we're in a tautology. I never would imagine that I'd be in a situation where I'm like against environmentalists, because who isn't for the environment, right? So there's environmental issues, there's an aquifer, there's wetlands, there's contiguous habitats, including endangered species and migratory birds. Battery storage systems do not produce energy. They store electricity generated elsewhere and return less than they take in. They're net consumers of electricity, not generators. Okay, so this is my pet issue. My pet issue is noise. I'm on Elm Street. I'm here for 20 years. The peace is why I'm here and then why I'm still here. And unfortunately, when I raised the noise issue to somebody who's very knowledgeable, they were like, huh, that's the least of your issues. Everybody's self-motivated or self-interested, but they dismissed it as a relatively small concern relative to the danger, which is what other people are going to be talking about. From a noise perspective, projections based on what was included in the packet, because it was very vague and it was non-specific, but based on what was included and the elevated location and the low frequency, which travels further, we're looking at 70 decibels at the fence line, 50 at the nearest houses, and 40 well within and throughout Saugerties village. So we're going to be looking at a constant humming that's going to be pervasive for a big part of our community and insufferable for people who live closer. It's not masked by the throughway noise, other than rush hour traffic, or by the railroad, which is intermittent. Noise will be running 24/7. The noise coming from the HVAC cooling units, inverters, and transformers. The town of Saugerties has no noise ordinance. There are no plans from the applicant to install any sound berms to control the noise. There's no acoustic modeling referenced in the application. There's no post-construction sound testing in the application. There's no nighttime noise cap. There's deforestation that will remove noise buffers. And then when you take that in combination with the solar farm, where there's going to be deforestation too, this is going to have a huge impact in and of itself, even without the mechanical noise. And there is noise that comes from solar farms too. Maybe not from the solar panels, but from the associated equipment. And then we also have nighttime inversion conditions. Experience from other New York communities, including Western New York, demonstrates that battery energy storage systems can generate persistent tonal and low frequency noises, resulting in repeated resident complaints, including sleep disturbance and reduced quality of life. Even where moderate, I'm sorry, I can't read that right now. Even when technically compliant. Deficiencies in the process. This is where the real problem is. And I call this infosuasion. And those of you who have been to some of these presentations, I think you know what I mean. The application itself was 600 pages. You know, we had the, the planning board, the planning attorney was, oh my God, it's 600 pages. 200 pages of that were duplicates. So they padded the application. Of those pages, most of it was just boilerplate, had nothing to do with our community, had nothing to do with this specific installation. We're getting incremental submissions in order to lock in those vested rights, which I mentioned earlier, and get approvals contingent on future submissions. So what they want to do is say, oh, well, we're going to approve this but then you have to go and do this. So as soon as they get to that point, this becomes a viable, marketable contract that can be potentially sold on to other applicants. That's one thing. And it also locks the town in to not be able to back out without the potential of a litigation. So it's creating pressure to our planning board to approve and a blank slate for the developers. Approve first, study later. There's conflicting acreage disturbance numbers to avoid the type 1 classification in the packet. However, the acreage disturbance in and of itself is not the only determinant of a type 1 classification. Maybe that's how, people in the town have been used to be doing it before, but that is not the only determinant. What is missing is site-specific emergency response plan. We have no idea if we can actually support this kind of facility. Anybody who's telling you no problem here, they obviously have not read this packet because they would know there is no information in this packet that supports this in our community. So including the thermal runaway, which, is, I want to point out a lot of the language that is being used to minimize the concerns that the community should rightfully have. A thermal runaway event is an explosion. It's not something that's nicer than an explosion, it's an explosion. There's no stormwater pollution protection plan, no noise modeling. The aquifer and groundwater risks are not evaluated. We've been dealing with expedited timelines, stealth introduction to the Saugerties community, including the timing and the lack of true community outreach for engagement. The number of containers is being minimized in key capture handouts. People have said they went to 2 meetings, the key capture one and the one at the town board meeting, and they still got the impression it was just going to be 10 containers. That's not a mistake. That's to minimize the reaction of the community to such a huge, massive industrial scale project. We have a roving band of consultants with self-interest, including money, who are going up and down the state, making a name for themselves, teaching other people how to dress it up and minimize true engagement with their own communities. And I think it's disgusting. The initial zoning determination, there's a challenge into the initial zoning determination to say, oh, no problem. One person was sitting in the room and like, oh yeah, that match is fine. We'll go ahead, and nobody knew about it is beyond belief. This kind of technology did not even exist when the zoning was written, and the application should not have been accepted prior to rezoning. The planning consultants have failed to act on the fact that of the illegal segmentation of the solar panel project and the BESS project. The full impact on our community is not being assessed. Premature and incorrect secret classification. That secret classification shouldn't have even been made yet until the information and the application packet was fully reviewed, which clearly it wasn't, because otherwise they'd be like, wait a minute, 200 duplicate pages and nothing about Saugerties hardly. So it should not be unclassified. CEQA also requires that a community, a town planning board, and a town board takes what's called a hard look. The Saugerties Town Board is pushing town institutions, committees, and boards for informal support without having the needed information or considering alternatives. Also illegal. There is a lack of transparency. It's very, very hard to get information about this project. Nobody wants to be a foil, a freedom of information expert. I certainly don't, but getting information is next to impossible. There's also a violation, potential violation of open meeting laws that's happening right now, where there's being meetings held and the community of not being able to be engaged and not being able to be informed. And it's not something that the community has to wait until public hearings to be, that's how we've always done it. That doesn't make it okay. That's not the way it's supposed to be. As a community in general, even this project aside, we need to be informed and we need to be able to engage with our town administration. That's what they're there for. That's what we pay them for. CEQA makes sure agencies take a hard look at environmental impacts, consider alternatives, provide opportunities for public input. When I asked the town planning attorney, oh, can we give input prior to the public hearing? I was told no. That is incorrect. By law, we can give input now, and that's what I would urge everybody to do. And the CEQA also makes sure agencies make decisions that avoid or minimize harm. What next? Industrial and residential rezoning is needed, and this is needed for responsible, comprehensive municipal planning. Ensure these future uses are incorporated into responsible zoning policy, including Bitcoin mining and data centers. Rezoning should come first before any approvals, including the current applicant who does not yet have those vested rights. The Saugerties Planning Board should formally deem the application as an incomplete application and not proceed with any decisions. Should formally determine insufficient information for a CEQA review and should formally have a formal resolution to adjourn the application. Finally, for my part, what are other communities doing? Other communities have extensions and bans. Communities are pausing projects, revising their code, or banning BESS while safety questions remain. New York leads the US with 97 active BESS moratoriums. 37 of 62 counties have at least one. Fire departments are raising concerns. Towns are pushing back. I'm not going to read through the whole list, but obviously we've all heard about the Warwick situation where they had a battery fire and then months later it self-ignited again. And they have a moratorium, and I believe, I may be wrong, but I believe it's being decommissioned entirely at this point. And we also have other communities who have fire service pushback, citing firefighter and first responder concerns about inextinguishable fires. Honestly, it's not even something that the fire department has anything to do, other than potentially, cool down adjacent units that aren't on fire. There is really nothing they can do, just let it burn out. All the while we have toxic gases that are being infused into our community and into our surrounding water, into our aquifer, and into our ground. And not least of all, us and our animals. We have Hope Lodge Fire Department, their fire commissioner publicly pointed to the Orange County fires while Islip kept the project under moratorium. In fact, Hope Lodge Fire Department actually commissioned a white paper from somebody who I spoke to, and he's the one who was like, yeah, sound is the least of your problems. These things are dangerous. Okay, technology. And at this point, I am going to introduce our next speaker. And you just have to excuse me while I just switch things over. Just gonna unplug that. Oh, do you want to just see if he's on? Randolph, are you on?
I've been on all along, my dear.
Okay, great. Let me just plug you back in so that you can talk. Try just testing, 1, 2, 3. Say something.
Testing, here I am.
Oh, okay. The audio is not syncing through. Let's just see. I was worried about this. We'll try this. We'll try this again. We're just gonna have to, Jared, we're just gonna have to rig this up and see if we can figure it out. Randolph, say something again.
Hello, here I am. It's Randolph here.
Can everyone hear that?
Try it again. All right, Randolph, on to you.
And thank you very much for the invitation. If I'm trying to modulate so that I'm well heard, interrupt me anytime you don't seem to be hearing well enough. I'm joining you via audio only to maximize the bandwidth on my end to try to make sure we get good signal quality. Hope to be present with you at the next meeting. For those people who don't know me, I've been a resident at nearby Woodstock for 25 years, and I'm in and out of Saugerties for a number of different reasons on a regular basis. I consider Saugerties and Woodstock to be very, very much linked together in our part of Ulster County, in our part of the Mid-Hudson region. For my own part, I've been involved with sustainable enterprise since the 1970s, including sustainable agriculture, the development of health food ingredients and dietary supplements, other things, but also a pervasive interest in renewable energy, going all the way back to the very beginning of that era. That is to say, over 50 years.
Was it even before that?
Yeah, I think it was better with the microphone.
All right, sorry.
Do you want to change? Do you want to
Feedback.
change the microphone?
Is that better? All right, go ahead.
So I want to make it very, very clear. This is not a criticism of the Saugerties key capture project itself.
Hold on, Randolph.
Yes,
Hold on a sec.
I think it would have been better. I'm not sure. It might have been better for you to join the Teams meeting and then just not put yourself on video so that you could have done the audio only. It is an option. We're having a problem like getting decent sound to the room.
I'm seeing your video. I'm not broadcasting video.
We're having a problem getting decent audio. Try again. Keep going.
Hello, sound check,
No,
sound
we're
check.
getting. Yeah, it's not picking up anything from the computer.
You know, just hold on to and let him talk.
Right.
I mean, you can sit.
Thank you. But is this even work? Is this even?
Yes.
All right, go ahead.
I can speak up even more loudly if you'll just correct me as we go along.
That's better. Yeah.
All right, well, I'll speak very, very loudly and keep me apprised of whether the signal is reaching those parties, those people attending. So
It is
this
now.
is
Yes.
not a criticism pointed at Saugerties alone. Equally irresponsible of NYSERDA is any example of 4-hour lithium-based battery storage, particularly standalone battery storage. This is a technology which is already obsolete 3 years ago. NYSERDA is irresponsibly trying to force an investment on communities which will turn out to be a burden for 20 years or more. And it is particularly irresponsible because NYSERDA knew better when they issued the procurement proceeding for these bids from these parties only last summer. It's already been said, and accurately so, that a number of proponents for grabbing financial incentives and putting these highly profitable facilities in place anticipated the NYSERDA procurement. But why do I say how irresponsible it is? 4-hour storage confers no benefit whatsoever on renewable energy. It does not sustain renewable energy. It confers no worthwhile benefit on the electric grid and absolutely none to the community in which it is sited. A number of well-meaning people have been beguiled and confused by the notion that this is somehow an asset and a benefit to Saugerties. I don't mean to hurt their feelings, but they are working from incomplete information, all of which is wrong. So what do I have to say about this? The new standard is 100-hour non-lithium battery storage, if you have battery storage at all. Of the existing arrays, mostly in California, at least 40% of the time, they are used for rate arbitrage. That is to say, buy the dirty power overnight when there's certainly no solar going on of any description, and resell at the convenience of the operator during the next day when electricity is most valuable. And they're proud of this. It's part of their profit motive. It's part of their profit picture. It is what they want to be in Saugerties to do. The more serious problem is known only to parties such as myself and those in our industry. The nearly brand new Central Hudson substation is an asset for higher end renewable energy and clean energy development potential, and projects such as this inherently worthless next amp solar array and this very, very unsuitable and even more worthless battery array. Projects like that will attempt to intrude into this wonderful asset, which needs to be reserved by local and industrial policy for electricity generation, which is environmentally benign. Can you still hear me? Are you
I
interrupting?
don't know how to get rid of the feedback. Oh, it's on his end?
No, it stopped.
His volume on his computer on, he should mute himself.
He can't mute
On his
himself.
computer.
Can you turn the volume down on your computer, because it's creating something's creating a lot of feedback, and if we don't get it under control, we won't unfortunately be able to do any Q&A with you.
Well, I'm speaking to you from my iPhone. I don't know what setting I should to attempt.
I think what we're gonna do, I think you made your point, and I hate to do this, but technical issues, and meaning that doing a Q&A may not really be feasible at this time, Randolph, because there is a lot of feedback in the room.
I regret that it worked out that way. Can you hear me at all?
Yeah, it seems a bit, just keep going a little bit more now and see what happens.
All right. So the point I would make to the audience, and I would make to anybody else who resides in Saugerties, the future of that substation is that it is interconnected with the 345,000 volt transmission line that runs from Athens, New York, all the way down to Danskammer Point. It is an asset which the town did not create, but from which the town could benefit greatly from good planning and good policy. So I would say this battery plant, not only in Saugerties, but everywhere in the state of New York needs to be canceled. The last part of the story I was going to tell, interrupt me if I'm not making myself clear at all. Just one example of long duration energy storage, the new and future 100-hour storage standard. That is to say, one plant would be the equivalent of 25 of these inherently worthless key capture plants. NYSERDA helped to fund a Form Energy demonstration that came online all the way back in 2023, demonstrating
Randolph, I'm so sorry. We're gonna have to end this segment. The technical issues are making people ready to tear their hair out because we're all getting feedback. But everybody did listen very carefully, and we'll make sure that we set it up properly the next time we do a session, which I think having a session dedicated to some of these ideas and an exchange of information with other people that might have other ideas might be a good future use of your time and people's time. So thank you so much, Randolph.
Out of respect for the event and everybody concerned, I'm going to mute my microphone, but I'm going to continue listening in so I know what's said.
Oh, absolutely. Yes, please listen in. We're going to hand over now to Eves. Thank you so much, Randolph.
Our next speaker is Eve McCall. He's a Saugerties resident and an environmental specialist.
Thank you, that's better. Hello? Come on.
There you go. You go. It just takes a little
Okay.
little bit. Here, you can have a seat too.
No, I don't need a seat.
Okay.
I've been sitting down all day. Is it this good? Yeah, okay. Thank you. Well, we've been talking this evening about large lithium batteries, and they are coming to our neighborhood here. So why? The electric grid wastes energy when it's not used. So the plan is to capture energy that would be wasted and to return it to the grid when needed. And when I say grid, it's the electrical grid. And what's happening, they buy low at night and they sell it high during the day, mostly on hot days, and you need to cool off. 6,000 battery sites are being planned for New York State. That's quite a bit. The sites need to be located in the near substation so that they can pull the electricity and then send it back into the grid when it's needed. Nearby, sites are being considered. Ulster, the town of Ulster should have 2 sites. One is the high school. That's all the time in the press. The second one is also from time to time in the press. It's behind Home Depot and ShopRite in that neighborhood. New Paltz is being considered, Rosendale, Platkill, and obviously Saugerties. Okay. Has anybody ever heard about the New Jersey hazardous substance fact sheets? No, okay. At least I have been exposed to those. Essentially, it was information on hazardous substances prepared under right to know law for workers and residents who may be exposed at work or in their communities to hazardous substances. So on the left side, you have here health effects mostly for workers. And over there, as I said, emergency responders and a hazard summary. This was a rating from the New Jersey Department of Health, and FPA is the National Fire Protection Agency. So you have a health rating of 3 here, flammability 2, reactivity of 2. Reactivity, it's when it comes in contact with water, not necessarily a gallon of water, but humidity in the air as well. So something of concern, they're combustible and reactive, which means that they will burn and explode. They may emit spontaneously in air, which means that they just can burst into flame. Poisonous gases are produced in fire. That's my personal rating. I give it a 5. And containers can explode, may explode in fire. Do not use water. That's for emergency responders. Poisonous gas, it's very dangerous because most of the time you're not going to see it. You can have serious health effect from that. And the gases are going to be going left and right according to the wind. So you've got to be aware of what's going on. That's something important. You know, if you take your phone and look up the weather, here in Saugerties, you get the weather from a weather station that is way down at the airport in Poughkeepsie. So it's not exactly the weather around here that can be modified by the direction of wind. Don't read all of that or try to read it. It's part of the information that is provided. You have one copy, but my recommendation, if you ever need information on hazardous substances, Google New Jersey hazardous substance fact sheet. Okay, there are pretty close to 2,000 fact sheets now, maybe a little bit above. Some of them are available in Spanish, the one with, that are most currently used. Yes, you have a question there?
Exactly. Is making these, because I don't think this has anything to do with energy. Because, I mean, they mentioned in their speech, was it a month ago or a few weeks back, that there was a shortage of electricity out on Long Island. Didn't they say that?
I did not. Liz?
I don't know. I don't know about Long
I
Island.
think that, but I know people on Long Island and there's no such thing. Okay. I don't think this has anything to do with power. I think people are planting bombs around us to blow us up.
Okay, we're gonna have an open question and comment period.
Who's
Can
making these?
you
We
please?
actually
Okay.
we actually don't
You're
know
asking the batteries or the fact sheet?
the
What
battery.
is them?
Huh?
What is them? Who is making the batteries?
China.
I don't know.
And you know what? Not only do the developer doesn't know either, they have not determined whose batteries they're going to use or what kind of batteries they're going to use. It's a TBD. They want a blank slate to lock it in. Who knows? They may even just sell the whole project to somebody. We don't even know who it might even be. And then they'll decide what it's going to be. So we have no idea really. And they have no idea.
Okay, I'm gonna ask that we hold questions and comments till Eve is done, and then after that, we're gonna have an open comment period for everyone.
I think it's the grade above. Okay, a little warning about the Superfund Amendment and Reauthorization Act, Title 3, Section 312. That's a law that has been on the books for 40 years about. And it requires when a facility has hazardous substances on site to report their inventory to state and local authorities. And it's due every year. They have a threshold over 10,000 pounds. That threshold here is much less than what will be on site. So the companies bringing those batteries on site will have to do a reporting of what's going to be there. The reports are going to the State Emergency Response Commission, the local emergency planning committee. I don't know if we have one. In Saugerties, we should. It should be associated with the local fire department. What's important that is required is the chemical names, safety data sheets similar to this that is being prepared by the manufacturer. Quantities on site, how they are being stored, where they are going to be stored in our facility, and mostly an emergency plan. If you were at that March 5th, February 5th introduction, time flies. They were saying, oh, we're going to have an emergency plan. Yeah, they can have an emergency plan. It's required because they have dangerous stuff on site. Issues. The lithium cells are packed in modules, and modules are packed in containers. The containers that they are planning, the pictures that they had, or drawings, the containers are close to each other. Fire and explosion can propagate that battery, propagate from cell to other cells and containers. And again, we have poisonous gases. And when there is a fire, large quantities are present on site. And what's important to all of us here is the proximity to residences and businesses. I have a few maps. I love maps, so you're going to have to indulge a little bit. Here on the left, that's about where the batteries are going to be next to the CVS Plaza. That's what we call it, the Union. And other stores here, including a few restaurants that are here. But here we have, from that point to the Central Hudson substation, a quarter of a mile. That's pretty close. So if you had poisonous gases going from here, regardless of, of the wind, you may be posing problem for the substation, preventing workers to get access to it. Another quarter mile on the other side, same location here for the batteries. And this is the new development on North Street. Here you have Elm Street, North Street here, Elm Street is here. Half a mile direction. So here you go further, you reach Elm Street here. You would be at Market Street at this level. You're reaching Route 212. And you're going to see on the next slide, you're also reaching the thruway here. And you have all of those community manor place, I think it's called, right there. And quite a few down there. Here, that's a view to the west. Battery storage here, half a mile. You're reaching, this is the Sunoco gas station. You have 1 motel, 2 motel, 3 hotel here. And for those who know the area and follow the news in Saugerties, here you will have the largest development in Ulster County history right there with possibly 2,700 residents. Okay, this is a different view from the Ulster County parcel viewer. That's everybody can access on a computer that gives you information on the facilities. And you go half a mile, half a mile, half a mile. Then story up here, it's People's Road. And here on Route 32, you have the intersection with Moore Mill Road and the Cedar Grove Fire Department. What I liked about this picture is that it shows some of the hills that we have. So most of the time in this neighborhood, the wind is coming from the north and going south. Sometimes it goes in the opposite direction, but it follows natural canyon here to the left, to the west as well. So we got to think about those consequences and look more at a coherent, cumulative environmental impact analysis that needs to be done. This is a very, very rough estimate. So Saugerties 9, Manon Road 18, 7, Abbots Court, and so forth. Estimated total 163. I didn't really count a lot of places. On Route 212, there were way too many.
North Street will be a much higher population because you have that whole condo development over there as well.
Yeah. But, you know, here I have a 561 residents. I could be off, but that's a significant population, mostly if you happen to be counted in there. Okay, NIMBY, do you know what it stands for? Okay.
Backyard.
Very good. It is a bad idea to locate a facility with large quantities of hazardous substances near a residential neighborhood. It is a bad idea to place containers next to each other when they contain hazardous substances, which can propagate fire from one container to the next. Training of the volunteer Cedar Grove Fire Department is not enough. There is a fire department mutual aid from towns that are neighbors to Saugerties. They also need to be trained and provided with equipment. You may need to talk about having a few of those moon suits that you see in movies. Whenever you have two guys in a moon suit, two different moon suits, you need to have two helpers to get them in the suit, and you need 4 people for decontamination after. That's probably pretty much a lot of the volunteers at any time point. So if you have a fire or a situation with fire, gases, explosion for 3 weeks like they had in Warwick, there's a pickle here. Residents must be informed, let's say those within at least half a mile, whether they're going to be told to evacuate or shelter in place, and what exactly it means. Evacuate, you get on your car as fast as you can with your family and your pets. Shelter in place, you close all your windows and you turn off the AC and fans. Okay, technology, we talked a little bit about that, but it's a new technology, well, that will be obsolete in a few years. How many years, I cannot tell you that. We'll see something else on the next slide. And there should be no toxic fumes and smoke particulates in the air we breathe. If there is an incident, we will clean it up. And of course, we will pay for the cleanup. I'm not answering that question. Alternatives. There are iron air batteries for storage similar to the lithium, but they are being used and developed here in the USA, and NYSERDA may have tested them. They do exist. Iron is a metal that is very common. You know, they make the material for cans of food with it. It should be relatively safe. Sodium ion batteries, they are being developed and used in Germany and China, and now is also developing them. And I read yesterday that they were making them so that they can be used in cars to replace the lithium batteries that they are using right now. Delaying decisions may be a good idea when alternative solutions are available. Reducing electricity usage when possible, that's something that we should all do. And renewable sources of energy were not a bad idea when some folks were talking about. Resources, I have mentioned the New Jersey Department of Health as the substance fact sheets. Google that name, and you will be rewarded. That's the last slide, okay? I can go. Thank you. The Ulster County Parcel Viewer, that's available through the internet. It's information that I showed, where are the outer boundary of the property, and the size of the property. Something that is more difficult to get access to is the Ulster County GIS. You can download some file, but you need some expertise and you need a software. I do recommend the QGIS, which is free. You have EPA, DEC, and something for firefighters, Cameo, which is a database of hazardous substances, MarkPlot to map sites, and LOA, which lets you model plumes. Knowing where the wind is blowing from and going to, you can see who is going to be affected. It's going to draw kind of a drop of water.
That's great.
And that's it.
Thank you so much.
That's the end of our presentation for tonight, and yes, yes. And we have two more sections of the meeting. The next is, and we'd like people, if you'd like to speak, either to ask a question or make a comment, please say your name. And we'd like to ask that everybody listen and not interrupt people, and that people not do run-on comments and questions, but be as succinct as you can. And I'd like people to use the microphone, so if you don't, I can bring it to you, or you can just come up and get it. And then you can, ask Eve a question or any general questions. If we can't answer them, we'll make a note of it and write your name down and get back to you. Sir?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Harry Burnett, and I live here in Saugerties in the village area. Actually, I'm pretty close perimeter to that proposed site, just on the east side of the railroad tracks, right next to Sawyer Motors on North Street. So I'm one of the list of endangered species that you showed in that radio. So, but also just to bring to your attention about the lithium problem is also, as far as the vulnerability of fire and explosion to be concerned about, you might want to consider that there's a huge bulk propane filling station right on the railroad tracks, just on the east side of the railroad. Was one across from on the west side. I don't think it functions anymore. And this gentleman lives right there. So he's right, and he could throw a stone and hit the propane fill station. So they're the dangerous elements that haven't been brought up. But these things are tentatively important. And the other thing is, they're telling us what a benefit this would be for shortage of power and this and that. Believe me, brethren and sisters, we're not going to benefit anything from this power-wise whatsoever. Whatever minimal amount they get from their shenanigans will go to New York City. We will not benefit one thing up here. We'll be left with the mess if anything happens, and it'll be a foreign people who develop and produce these things in another land, and they have no liabilities here. They just go their merry way, and we're going to be left to clean this up or whatever as a community. So I don't know what your feelings are for the town board, but I know they have their views. They want to push these things. There's strong Democrat, liberal views, and they're sucked into the green and all this thing. And it's a good to a point, but there's a point comes when it's not effective and it's actually going to endanger us to the point where we're going to suffer from it. Somebody else, if there's any benefit from it, and he's been explaining that there really isn't, this old technology. And with that said, we're not going to get anything out of locally around here except the heartache that causes. So that's my comment, and so much as I have to say. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Gaetano Charlante. I just have a factual question. Who owns this land?
P, it begins with a P.
Pitcock.
Pitcock. Mr. Pitcock owns the land and has a contract with KCE. Yeah, we have a document if you
Okay,
are
so
interested.
it's not on town property at all.
Not from my understanding.
Is this a done deal? Is this a done deal?
What's your name?
Sorry, Richard.
Hi, Richard.
Hi.
Richard's asking if it's a done deal. I think it is. If you don't, and the rest of us don't, make sure that it isn't a done deal.
Okay.
That's my opinion, but that's the best I can answer that question.
So there's opportunity to.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, yes.
Engage, that's what
Right.
that's why we bring everybody together
Right.
to engage with a full spectrum of thoughts about this.
Yeah.
We don't have all the answers. I feel differently about it than Claudia does. I feel different about it than Lauren does, and you feel different than Linda does. We all are coming at this from a different perspective. But this is the very first time we've had an opportunity to talk as a community.
So what is the next opportunity?
We'll get to, Richard's asking next opportunity. We will get to that promise.
Okay.
Okay,
I can just talk loud.
okay.
Eileen Ryan, I've been here from Saugerties for the last half years. I'm concerned about this vested rights. How far along are we on that process where it's out of our hands?
We've had the pre-plan, they had the planning meeting where, in my opinion, they prematurely classified it as an unlisted, from a secret perspective. And it was premature for them to do that. And they had, questions that went back to the applicant, the Friday right before the second planning meeting that it turned up in. So it's been through pre-planning and then one planning committee meeting. And it will be showing up at the next planning committee meeting too. And we're trying to get hold of the information that's being exchanged between the developer and the planning committee, but it's really hard to get this information from the town. So we are trying to figure out how to best do that. It's a very contentious when you ask for information from the town, and it really shouldn't be. This is our information. This is our town. We pay their wages. There's laws about it. So, and we'll have a bit more about that also. That comes down to the foils we're having to do, the open meeting laws that we are saying, where's the visibility? So that vested rights, as of right now, they do not have vested rights. They have not invested enough money to be at the point of vested rights. And if anybody tells you that they are, then that is untrue. Please contact us because that is something that you absolutely want to watch.
Yeah, yes,
One short question.
please say
How
your
much
name.
money did Mr. Pitcock get for that land?
We'd like to find out.
He's leasing it, he's not sold it.
Right.
We have no way of knowing that.
That's not public information.
It's that, so my name is Caesar Baptista and they actually came to me with an offer. That's KCE. They reached out to me because I'm a neighbor, like a former neighbor to that property. And they offered me $100,000 a year for 10 years. So that comes out to $1 million. And my parcel is nowhere near as good as Kevin's. So he has to have gotten a better deal than that. So you use that as a baseline, basically.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you for answering that question. Yes.
Stephen Schaefer, did they file an EAF?
Yes,
They filed it with the planning board,
yes.
and it's been reviewed by the planning board, and
They have the EAF part one they submitted, which was incomplete with all of inconsistencies. And now the planning board is looking at going through the EAF two. That was what was given to them at the last planning board meeting, and now they're starting on in that process.
So we're waiting for the decision from the planning board about the completed EAF.
Correct.
So you know what an EAF is?
No.
It's sort of the first round in which you describe a project. And then a decision is made as to whether it will be type one, how much, and whether it will go to sequel. I personally am in favor of this, but I personally think that taking it through a full secret process would be a perfectly good idea. That's what they've done in Ulster. And I think it would satisfy a lot of the worries that we have.
To have a full, a positive
Yeah,
secret
to go-
determination to
To
go
go,
through full.
go through the whole thing, yes.
Saying that, that's really a relief for you to say that.
Yeah, that's what we all.
Lady over here.
Next.
Can you kill the mic? It's causing problems, please.
I also will talk loud. My name is Karen. I live in Saugerties, although it's actually Lake Katrine. First of all, the first question I have is whatever the owner of this, is he a Saugerties resident?
Kingston,
He is, okay, so he's at least local.
for now.
Okay, for now. The other thing is, are there any American companies? This company is out of South Korea. Why is the town board or whomever, why are they even friendly towards somebody that's outside of our country?
Good question.
I mean, we talk about accountability, but we only talk about it in the abstract. But you can name a bunch of things. Look at what happened in Pennsylvania. But yeah, FEMA will come. FEMA doesn't come, right? So when I just, part of me is like, I don't understand. First of all, where does even somebody benefit in any way, shape, or form? Could somebody, I mean, just common sense, where is there any benefit? The other thing that I'm thinking, I just put solar panels on my roof, just as a commentary. Now, we all know that Central Hudson is planning its increases, electricity is going up, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And with this storage unit, I can't even get a picture in my mind. Is it a container that has so many cells in it? Is that how it works? I didn't see any diagram.
Yeah, check out the lawn sign. It has a good
Yeah, I think-
representation.
Oh, so essentially, these are like storage facilities where people go and rent them for their clothes and crap.
I mean, they're the size of like, when you see, when you see, trucks. Oh, yeah, tractor trailers, they're like big tractor trailer trailers stacked with batteries and tech.
Okay, so where, 4 hours is nothing. And are they tied in with Central Hudson?
Yeah.
You're so
They would be.
Central Hudson is gonna draw that into their grid when they need it. Is that what you're saying?
No, what's gonna happen is the battery, these battery companies will buy electricity from Central Hudson, take it off the grid, and they'll buy it when it's cheap, and then they will do arbitrage and sell it back when it's high. And it will go back onto the grid, and there will be at least a 20% loss in energy just in that process.
Absolutely. But I don't, so again, it's not,
There's no local benefit.
no, it's not.
Let me just speak to that.
But even Central Hudson, okay, it's not just Central Hudson that's handling, you're having outside entities come in and purchase it to sell it back to us?
Yeah.
Is that the essence of
At
it?
a higher rates.
Well, I know, okay, capitalism or whatever you want to call it, but anyways, I see that. But again, where is there any benefit for the local residents of that deal with Central Hudson? Is Central Hudson getting something out of this?
To
No.
answer some of these questions. for you.
I have an answer too.
Central Hudson is roped into this just like we are. They want no part of this. Central Hudson, what is going on right now, Hochul is trying to take over Central Hudson by forcibly take over the utility company. They will own that substation up there, the state, and that's why they're heck bent I'm putting these things in because if they take over Central Hudson Utility, they control the power in this Central Hudson area, and that's a fact.
So they want
I
to
worked for them for
socialize.
30 years.
Want to socialize our,
So it's nothing to do with Central Hudson they're opposing this thing,
so
trust me.
why don't they have the say? Why doesn't Central Hudson?
They had meetings at South Road, I've been to them.
I know, but why isn't Central Hudson saying, no, we don't want this?
That's a good,
They're saying they don't want it.
it's a
But
good
hope so.
question. We can't answer it though.
Through the politics and
Yeah.
stuff, they can forcibly take over the shareholders, the state invests the money and takes over a utility or anything. But my point, going beyond this, we're not supposed to discuss anything here, but this battery thing, but the fact is, the government is trying to take over for control.
Right, but at this point, Central Hudson is still privately held. Yes, okay. So as an entity like that, they're purchasing and buying, so the two are connected, is what I'm saying. They don't operate independently of one another. The battery.
Right,
plant,
that's
facility,
correct.
storage unit still ties into Central Hudson.
Yeah, it has to.
So,
because-
right, so where is it that Central Hudson, as, they're like the overall umbrella? This is an entity that feeds into Central Hudson, so Central Hudson should be saying, wait, we don't want that. So
Well,
I,
actually, if I may,
Yeah.
down in the cities, Con Ed recently has said, there's been so many of these battery things
Wait.
popping up that now, Con Ed is saying that they want the battery, applicants to start contributing to the infrastructure on the grid. Because what's happening, so many of these coming online,
Yeah.
that now you need a beefed up infrastructure.
Sure.
And if these facilities, if private companies don't pay for it, that cost will get paid, passed along to us as consumers in our Central Hudson bills. So,
Okay,
all right, next.
Central Hudson opposing this thing, they don't want it, but here's the thing, that goes onto their system because they've already allowed, or however it's arranged, that you can have solar panels and that the utility by law has to buy back the power that you put out. So that's the deal, they have to take it.
Central Hudson
If it's
has no
produced.
choice. That was the law that was passed that forced them to do that.
right, but it's not on the capacity that something like this is, and this is so short term. You're tripling as individual solar panel owners, we're tripling into the grid, net metering.
When you think about the numbers they put up, okay?
I don't know.
It said, how many megawatts for 4 hours? Was it 400 megawatt for a 4-hour rating?
Yeah, how many houses does
Well,
that
four,
feed?
I mean, going back to the context, down there, the context of the generating station, Rosen Generating Station, I worked down there for 20 years. They put out 600 megawatts an hour. And those generators, 600 megawatts. This is gonna put out 400 megawatts over a course of 4 hours. It's peanut, it's
Right.
nothing.
Right,
It's absolutely nothing for the investment, the contamination problem and the widespread space taken up there. It's a big error. That's my consensus is.
wait, thank you very much. I just want to make one comment and then we'll take more. My understanding is that the town makes an assessment on the project and will get big bucks from that.
how many years?
I don't know.
Not big bucks, just keep that in mind. It's not big bucks. It sounds like big bucks, but when you average it out over the years, it's at most a couple of $100,000 a year. What is that, secretary plus health benefits?
Okay, so, yeah, that, and also they get the town, my understanding is gets a percentage of the electricity that flows through the whole thing. Now, I need to ask everyone a question, because it's 7:30. We have to be out of here by 8.
Oh,
I want to include everyone. Are people okay with continuing to go for a little bit?
Yeah.
Okay, and then I think maybe at 1:15, we'll have to make a few last announcements and then close. So, who hasn't spoken? Yes.
Yes, I thank you. My name is Beverly and I live down on Silver's Drive. And I have a question about this bill that is now present in Albany about extending the 500-foot limit to 1,000-foot limit. And if we could all get together and support that, that sounds to me, maybe I'm wrong, that 1,000-foot limit would do away with this building. In terms of residences.
Too short.
No, it's
Be less viable as a location.
Yeah,
It would be determined.
so if we could perhaps get more information on how. to-
yes, we can get you more information.
Great.
What was that? I'm sorry.
Information on the bill that would change the 500 limit to 1,000.
Oh, absolutely. We can hook this up. Definitely coming towards us at the end. Somebody just asked for the presentation. Some of the information is included in the presentation too. So we don't have to print out stuff, but you can scribble that particular thing down and you can give us your contact information and we can pass on what we have.
Great, thanks.
You had your hand up a long time. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, forgive me if, we're all learning, because this is a lot of information that,
It is, yes, we are all,
renewable energy, solar panels, I have solar panels. I'm all for renewable energy because climate change and the fact that oil is a big problem, overseas and here. So this is about with the more solar panels and other kinds of renewable energy, where do we store that energy? And they store it in the batteries. Now, in other countries, from what I've heard, they have thousands and thousands of these batteries. They have them in Texas and they have them in California and in Europe. And I think it's really important to research how they're managing with them, if there's other fires that you're worried about. Because I did hear that it was like under 1% chance, under 1% like chance that a fire would even happen. And 0.6%, okay, 0.6%.
I'll answer this
Okay, I'm not done.
when you're done.
Okay, and so so I feel like everybody's just expecting a fire, but in actuality, it's like a lower chance than maybe those propane tanks blowing up that are nearby too. Or like it's a very low chance. Okay, so there's a lot of misinformation, and I think it's really important that we all like learn all sides of this, because if you care about the planet and you want to, stop contributing to climate change and spewing out oil and gas into the air, we're gonna have to have batteries, and that's just the way it is. And maybe there are these safer alternatives, but.
All right, thank you,
These are
thank
the-
you. Let me
Yeah,
answer this
other
question because the purpose of this session is not to have a debate about fossil fuels versus renewable energy. That's not why we're here. The reason we're here is to discuss whether this facility belongs in the middle of our community. Is this an appropriate location? So I just want to ground that conversation. And as we heard earlier on, there was a discussion about nobody's against renewable energy. Nobody's even against using that industrial corridor for something. But if something goes in there, it needs to be done in a structured, rational, well-ordered process. And it needs to be something that's meaningful, that meaningfully contributes to the energy issue. 4 hours for this kind of facility, as we've heard, does not make much sense, and there's much better technology out there. And when you talk about these percentages are meaningless at this point because there's an acceleration in deployments. Those percentages are basically like I can make a percentage up to tell you anything, right? They're not a valid control at this point. And as we also discussed earlier, the insurance companies are now looking at this. They have concern too, not just about the batteries, but the associated components. So it's not a conversation about global warming, and it's not a conversation about fossil fuels. It's about, is this facility safe in that location? Are there other technologies that will be better suited? And can this town follow a rational, well-ordered process that engages the community in this discussion before it's too late?
Okay, next, yes,
Hi,
your name, please?
I'm sorry, Janet, I live
Thank you.
at Saugerties Mountain Road. Has the town thought about the less tangible effects that are going to happen to the community
property value, thinking about our volunteer fire department. Are they going to want to volunteer if this is an option? Tourism, it's all of these things that even if people are getting misinformation, people are still getting it, and it will still affect our area in negative ways where any kind of fiscal incentive, big or small, that's coming into the community might be lost in eventually having lower property taxes again, because it's a less desirable neighborhood to live in, or people undervalue their homes to sell, to go to an area that this is less likely to happen. So as a community, who's taking this into consideration, that they're being penny wise and pound foolish?
Very good questions. Thank you. Please come to the planning board and the town board and say those things out loud. Sir,
Hi, Eric from Lafayette Street in the village. When they had that propaganda science fair several weeks ago, they said millions of dollars to Saugerties. And so I tried to flesh that out. It turns out that's over either 15 or 20 years, which is the expected life of it. And so you do the math on, so if it's less than $2 million, because they said it was around 2 million. When they said millions, they literally meant 2 or slightly less. And you spread that over 15 or 20 years, and you figure the property tax in town is somewhere between, some people might be paying $8,000 or $10,000 in property taxes. It's all going up for everyone, and we're all regretful of that. But so we're talking about all the risks that this town is forced to take on for the sake of the equivalent of, say, 10 or 12 or 14 houses worth of property tax. It's not a lot, and we're carrying such a burden, and I want to know why we're even talking about it. I don't understand, because it's not any major damage. And what happens is, and this is the last thought. My mind goes to someone's getting their pie. And I'm not saying it's happening. I'm absolutely not saying that's happening. But you gotta be suspicious. You gotta say, well, why are we talking about it? Why are you considering? Why is the board like, oh yeah, we're all good? What do we know that they don't?
okay, who hasn't spoken yet that wants to
So
speak?
I'd like to speak, the advantage of,
Your name, please?
I'm sorry, Skip, I live on Minor Street. And the advantage of it is, like what they did in Texas, there's a variance. And where the grid is controlled, it's a New York State independent operator system. They control how the grid works. And there's a variance in that grid. And sometimes there's a lot of demand, and sometimes there's little. So when you need that, a lot of demand, sometimes peaker plants have to come in, like in heat areas. And these batteries that are there to make up that difference, so you don't have to use peaker plants. And there's a lot of other things that vary the thing. And it's only not just this one place, there's these batteries everywhere to help modulate the grid. And actually, it lowers the cost because the grid doesn't have to be improved. The battery systems can help modulate that grid. And that's the advantage. When you have what the advantage, it's the advantage of everybody in that electric aquifer that gets from it. I mean, the electrons aren't sent anywhere else. They're in the grid. And sometimes the grid has enough, sometimes it doesn't. And the iOS has to balance that all the time.
Okay,
And that the batteries help that modulation.
right.
That's the advantage.
We understand that because a lot of us have been to some of these info-suasion presentations previously. We understand about balancing out the grid. We understand about using this storage to avoid bringing peaker plants on. What we're saying as a community is that we're not comfortable with having these facilities so close to where we live. If you go out at the cement plant, fine. Still a waste of technology because there's better technology coming down the line. They're dangerous. There is no advantage to our community. I unfortunately know how it must feel to spend decades fighting an environmental battle to come to this point where this is the culmination of an environmental track or an environmental meaningful engagement. But I think some of the committees, including the conservation, the CAC committee, are not paying attention to the fact that in the middle of our community is not the right place for them. Okay, and this isn't about ideals or being ideologues, it's about realities on the ground, people who will have to live with this, property values that will be devalued, noise factor, danger factor. There's so much that outweighs reasons why they should not be in the middle of our community, so much so that Kathy Hochul, I know you're upset about it, is talking about slowing things down, take a step back, and approaching this in a more rational way. So while I understand when you talk about what they're there for, we all understand. We are saying this is not the right place for them. But thank you.
Also, I just have to say, when's the last time your power, you couldn't have power because there wasn't enough power?
Never.
And all the new things that are coming that are sucking up power are not things that we will benefit. Well, some of them maybe, but that's another whole question. Who hasn't spoken yet? Anyone who wants to speak who hasn't spoken
I'm
yet?
sorry, I have a super quick question.
Yeah,
This is the first I'm hearing about the solar farm. Is that a done deal? Like,
no, it was brought, they made an application at the last plan.
But it is pretty much,
But what?
it's pretty much a done deal because
Yeah, I mean, nobody's fighting it, so.
well, this is the first I'm hearing about it.
Well, it just
Exactly.
came out of nowhere, just like everything else.
exactly, and this is the whole thing about the segmentation. Like they had the battery company actually had the lot that the solar farm's going onto was part of the original battery facility. Was originally part of the battery facility application. Now they're trying that now they've separated it and they want to treat one over here and one over there. They're going to be sharing infrastructure. It's illegal to segment those discussions and not consider the full impact on our community. I think we need to go on to next steps.
No,
or are we still going?
I got it. Battery. We can get into that, but the point is, do we want this in the middle of our community still?
But something.
That's, yeah, that's down the line probably. Okay, so next steps. No, I need the light, please.
Hey, look.
Oops, no, I have better things. So on April 15th, we're planning on presenting a petition, which is an online, and we have it here, petition that has right now over 400 signatures. And that's a very important meeting to come to support us, town board. We have a sheet with all the dates on the desk back there so you don't have to write anything down. Please sign up for our emails. We'll be doing regular newsletters and updates. Submit comments, make your wishes known to the planning board and to the town board. And the information to email them or call them is also on the table. Yeah, this is not yet approved, and let's make sure that it doesn't get approved.
I would go also one step further, like as Claudia said, there's like some handouts with upcoming dates. We have a few of them in here. Sign up to speak when you go to these meetings. When you get there, try and get there a little bit early, sign up to speak. Think before you go about what you want to speak about, ideally. We do not like being described as idiots, but thank you for that so much. We also have the next appearance at the Zoning Board of Appeals. As Dia said, we have the town board with privilege of the floor on the 15th. And then the next town planning meeting, likely with a continuance, is on 4/21. One thing, I'm sorry to jump in on Dia. be informed, go to town meetings, not just the town board meetings. I think one thing, if anything, that this is showing us is that it's important to stay engaged. You know, if everybody here was to pick one committee and go to one committee, there's like so many committees, you know, go to one committee a month and just see what's going on. What are they saying? Can you even get into the room? I went to the comprehensive planning committee that's held at the town offices. The doors were closed. It was dark. It was propped open by a broom. I only happened to see the way in because I saw somebody going in. And I don't think they'd ever seen anybody in that meeting except themselves, probably for years. And it's really important to show up, because if you don't show up, you can't be informed and you can't know what's going on. And we are looking for people to get involved, even if you just come to that town board meeting for the privilege of the floor and participate in physically as a group, handing in that petition to show that we are here, we exist. We're not fictitious community members.
Okay, and we also need help to keep this effort going. A small group of us have been doing a lot of work and we're happy to, but we need help. And some of the help we need is doing outreach, both on radio, press, social media, and we're producing information, helping get all that information out. Please start taking some of it, making copies, bringing it to your neighbors. When I go to anywhere in Saugerties, I take some with me and offer it to people if they want it. It's easy to engage with it. We now have beautiful lawn signs, which you can put on your lawn, and we'll hopefully be seeing them all over town soon. We're asking a $15 donation, which doesn't quite cover the cost, but we want to get them out there. We need help with meetings. We need help with fact sheet updates, foils, the ones that the town is not so forthcoming with, getting information that we have a legal right to get. There's a lot more. So please let someone at the desk know if you're interested in helping in any way and how that might be. Or we'll have a couple minutes, not really, after the meeting to talk with anybody, since we have to clean up and be out. But we can't thank you enough for showing up, for your participation. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Liz.
Oh my God, thank you. Thank you for showing up.
You say Caesar?
Caesar, yeah.
Hi.
Cesar,
Nice to meet you. I'm Dia.
nice to meet you too.
Yeah.
Oh, you're,
I heard you talking to.
I was gonna say, you're his husband, you're her husband. I met you before, remember?
I'm deaf too.
I met you at the town board meeting, that town board meeting.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you for speaking up, too.
Yeah, Freddie was trying to take the microphone away.
Oh my, I had to deal with that with Ivina too.
Anyway, the biggest thing is the eminent domain thing. This goes, it's nice to keep this out of the neighborhood, but hopefully, if that thing goes through, they